Welcome, man. I'm joined by Mr. Nick Kowalczyk, aka Gronk, and team lead over in St. Pete, and Matt Ekberg, independent operator and agency owner in St. Pete, longtime OG Urban Young team member. How long has it been, Matt? 10, 11 years.
March will be 12 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing, man. So you're in your 12th year, if you will, at E&Y. And man, what I hope to give today was going to be sales, right? This is going to be influence. This is going to be tactical philosophy, art, because really these are two people that are, if not the most talented, two of the most talented people in our ecosystem, and I believe in the industry, as far as just being able to influence, create urgency, being able to do more with less, be able to condense time and leverage experience to be able to ultimately get an outcome, which is the sale. So whether you're in relationship management, whether you're in marketing and sales, commercial, personal, I'd pay attention because they're doing some special things in St. Pete. And what we're going to do, and my intention is just kind of open the doors of what they're doing. In June, they had a monster month for their squad. When you look year over year, Matt and Nick, I sent you guys the numbers. Crazy, right? I mean, it's 100% growth on both policy count and premium, whatever metric you want to track. Major progress within your ecosystem. And then even the average policy count up until June, I did for this last fiscal year, 23 to 24, double the policy count that you've been averaging, and more than double the premium that you've been averaging. So what the trend and the path you guys on are, it's just getting started over there. So, but there's so much we can learn right now from you both. So thanks for joining us. Matt, man, bring me into you as the most experienced producer within Urban Young, held every position within the agency from service to team lead to sales to marketing to now obviously owning your own agency in St. Pete. What have you learned about sales and the discovery process, and about kind of what you do now that maybe you didn't back then, that if you could tell your former self, like, hey, this particular thing, when I get a customer on the line and I get their attention, how do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot over the course of my career here with you guys. Sitting down with just hearing conversations early on that you would have or Brett would have, and kind of picking up things like that. What I've learned now is, um, you know, learning through osmosis. What we always say, that's such a huge deal. I know Nick and I worked together for, I think it was like 12 months, and I was just, anything that I had picked up from you guys, I was able to, he was able to hear that firsthand and kind of learn through osmosis that way. But um, what I learned about myself pretty quickly was I was, and we joke about it too, I was I was a slow starter, but a strong finisher. And it had everything to do with my own personal confidence on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to search for that. It didn't come natural like it does with some people. And I found out that when I informed myself, when I learned about, the product, when I learned about the marketplace, when I learned about what these insurance companies are all about, how they handle claims, financials, how much money does this insurance company have, how exposed are they in certain markets. I did a lot. I started doing a lot of reading. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I learned about the market. And because I felt more equipped to answer those questions that, clients or referral partners would have, I found that confidence that I was looking for. It was, I didn't feel like I was qualified at first. And then
Mm-hmm.
once I got to a certain point where I learned all this information, I really got a lot of confidence, and that has translated into, being able to tell these stories to whoever it is I'm on the phone with. That, they say what is it? Stories sell, basically. Um, facts tell, stories sell.
Boom.
And, it's just one of those things that once I figured that out, it turned my entire career around, and it's been good ever since. So I would
That's
encourage anybody, if they don't know the market, get familiar with that, because I got a couple notes that we'll get into later. But personality types, I feel like young producers, there's a couple personality types that you don't really have to know all the facts. You don't have to have all these stories. They just want a friend to talk to. If you're nice and you can build rapport with somebody, you can earn their business. But there's a couple other personality types that I think other producers that are not as knowledgeable in our space, they're gonna struggle making some of those sales to those kinds of people, because it's gonna be required to know more about the product, to know more about the insurance company. They're gonna ask those tough questions, and if you don't know those off the top of your head, depending on the personality type, it could cost you the sale. So I found out that with my personality and then learning all that information, it's enabled me to, sell to a wide range of people.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. Obviously being there, a part of your journey that because I view you now, which I think is a good tip for anyone that is listening, is like, you may be that person that is hesitant and is looking to build confidence, whether you're new in a role, new to the industry, or otherwise. Other people don't struggle that. We're going to get with Nick in a second. I mean, Nick, I kind of perceive as the opposite of that, where he didn't need to know much and he just started producing, right? And which is cool, because we'll get into Nick's experience. It's not the first time you're in a position that you're selling or that you're influencing people, right? There was a career before this career that allowed for that, but also there's a personality type that just gravitates to me towards just confidence in people and so on and so forth. So I want to get there, but Matt, before we move on, I think it's a good reminder that you're not alone if you're struggling with that confidence, and some people need more information to build and stair step that belief to be able to get to that point where you can influence and direct a conversation. So what's interesting is you went to somebody that is hesitant on the phone, maybe lacks that certainty when you're delivering. I remember you handing me the phone and be like, dude, I don't want to sell this auto. You sell it. You remember that moment? And
Oh yeah.
we were like, no, you sell it. We'll either lose the auto or you can sell it. And of course you sold it. And that was a great breakthrough in your confidence. But doing the research, it's our craft, right? Knowing the market, knowing your carriers, that is your craft, right? So there's this personal development side of this where you're reading and you're understanding philosophy. And then there's digging into what you do for a living and knowing it well. And then you're going to ooze out confidence. And you've done that. And before we move on to Nick, I want to say, in June, Matt wrote almost 130,000 in premium. Just put up big numbers. And so sometimes you will talk and he's like, man, I'm really not trying to produce as much, right? But you just kind of have that level of talent and skill set that when you want to turn it on, you can turn it on. But go back to the personality types, because I want you to spend a little bit more time on that, because you've really crafted that to where I'm assuming you're talking about, hey, you have the amiable person that really just wants a friend, you have the direct person, you have the analytical person, and then
Yeah.
you have, I'm forgetting the fourth one, but maybe you can kind of bring us in on how you view that and
Cautious.
what's somebody cautious. How do you approach that when you're talking to
Yep.
somebody? Do you know that quickly in the conversation? Do you look for that? How do you view that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with you can kind of pinpoint somebody's personality by how fast they're talking, what sort of things that are coming out of their mouth, how friendly are they, and then also what their occupation is. I feel like a lot of that is good information to obtain on that first call, so that you can kind of identify what sort of personality type somebody is. But I've done trainings on this too at our annual leadership summits that we have every year. We talk about the DISC personality types, right? Which is just like you mentioned, you've got the D type personalities, which are the drivers or the dominant type personalities. You've got the I's, which are the inspiring. So backing up real quick, the D's, you're going to see D's a lot of times with doctors, attorneys, maybe a CEO of a big company, right? Like you get them on the phone and you know that you only have a couple of minutes to get on the phone with them, because they've got to get on to the next task. They're all very task driven. So figuring out what they do for a living is huge. Then you've got the I type personality. They're the inspiring type, right? So a lot of realtors are going to be I's, right? They are very outgoing. They're friendly. They're they're marketers out there. They're very bubbly personalities. those kinds of people don't really care about facts so much, right? They just want to talk with somebody. They want to know who you are. And so getting to know them, you have much more time typically on the phone with those kinds of personalities. And then you have the let's see, the S type personalities. These are they call it supportive. They have a hard time saying no, and they just need somebody that they can like and trust to help make that decision for them. A lot of homemakers or sometimes teachers or people like that they're very nice, and you just want to make sure that you're giving them the information, and that they know that everything's going to be okay. And then you have the C. The C's are going to be like your engineers or your accountants, your CPAs, things like that, where they're going to ask really good questions, and that's when you're going to want to know the answer like right off the bat, because they want to know, does this person know what they're talking about or not? And they're cautious in making decisions. The D type personalities, they want quick answers, quick and concise answers. So once you figure out who it is you're talking to, be able to identify what sort of personality, there's not a lot of effort that goes into, okay, this is I don't think about it on the top of my mind. I just go through it, and that's how my process is now. So it just kind of flows. And when you can have the conversation flow and be able to identify who that kind of person is, it happens automatically at that point. It's basically second nature. So
yeah, that's really good, because you've gone from somebody who was, what do they call it, unconscious incompetent to consciously incompetent, and then consciously competent, and now you're unconsciously competent, right? Those are the 4 stages of learning. And so what I just heard from you is, at first I'm cautious, I'm lacking confidence, and then boom, now all of a sudden it's just flowing. And early on in the conversation, I can tell who this person is, the information I'm going to get them, the questions I'm going to ask. I love that, though, the quick tips about their occupation, how fast they're talking, and then the questions they ask, because they're telling you what they care about. So if you're a producer out there, just lock in on those first minute and a half, right? So Nick, I want to get your perspective on that when you get somebody on the line. And for those that don't know Nick, he was our top overall premium production volume producer last year. He was probably the quickest to do it as far as the numbers he put up ever in our ecosystem. Multiple President's Club winner. And now one of the few producers on personal lines that's on pace to write over $1 million in premium in a fiscal year. And he just wrote 100,000 in premium 2 months ago, and so this guy knows what he's talking about, and he's evolved quick. And so, Nick, how do you perceive that first call? Kind of everything Matt just said, your style specifically, because sometimes with you, when I was around you or I'll hear you on calls, you have the ability, we have a philosophy called say less to more people. And you have the ability to be very good at building rapport, but also be very direct and get your message across, that it doesn't take you 50 words to say something you can say in 10. So where does that come from? How do you approach that?
Yeah, it's funny. You were saying earlier, it's like, Matt, what would you tell your younger self? And it's funny. It's like, I think I'm Matt's younger self because he's telling me everything that he learned throughout his years being in insurance. So now that was very easy for me to kind of get that going. But yeah, so my biggest thing honestly is time. Time is the most valuable thing. I know you guys hear it, everybody hears it over and over again that time is precious, and it is. So and time is money at the end of the day, right? So you want to try to limit the calls. And to Matt's point, he's right. You need to try to, and that it all comes with time. It all comes with talking to people. My previous job, that's all we really did was talk to people. So you kind of get a good sense of who the person is on the first phone call within the first couple sentences, and then trying to basically hit their pain points the fastest and see where they're at, and even digging a little bit more into it. It's like, okay, what does that one client have to offer? Is it just a rental in Florida, and it's a small premium policy, and that's the only thing you're going to get? Okay, cool, no problem. Maybe don't spend as much time as that. Still get them the right policy that you would spend on somebody who has some kids, lives in Florida, is willing to move their auto, interested in insurance, wants an agent to kind of take over their insurance for them year by year, and kind of dive into that and spend your time that end a little bit more than you would over on the, the rental policy. But that's not to say, you always want to, it's a tough code to crack because it's all about the referral partners too. Who sent over that referral? If it's a new referral partner, then you really want to make sure that you are giving them the white glove treatment, no matter what the premium is on the front end. And I think that's really kind of the basis of how it is to sell. It makes your job a lot easier if you have a referral partner that's referring Mr. and Mrs. Smith over to their insurance agent, Nick, who is absolutely amazing. He'll help you out. He'll shoot you straight and give you, all the details and everything that you need to know to get an insurance policy in place and protect your large asset, which is usually a home or auto insurance or anything like that. But that's kind of where I'd go with it is time is key and trying to figure out where your time lies and I don't, I think that's probably the biggest learning curve that I had to kind of go after is where to spend my time.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, I think the rookie producer, blinks and they've been on the phone for 45 minutes with somebody and they just have a rental property and they're shopping them and they're going to reach out to 5 agents and you go, oh my gosh, I think I'm doing them a favor by staying on the phone this long. And then you look at it and go, no, like a really good sales professional is going to be able to have that conversation in 12 minutes, and look, if it takes 30 sometimes for a reason that is an outlier, great. But if you have a habit on having long phone calls that don't need to be long, like you said, you're just going to be able to have less phone calls, which means you're going to be able to make less sales, right? Because at the end of the day, Robbie Sampson, the great loan originator that we all have come to know, one of the top loan officers in the country, is like, look, follow the money. Where's the money? Being on the phone with customers, right? Talking, through and taking them through the process and onboarding them the right way. And so I think that's your superpower that I've seen from early on, is that came very natural to you, but it sounds like you're still working on it. Let me ask you guys a quick, and by the way, of course you're still working on it, right? Because if you can have a 10-minute phone call and make it a 5-minute phone call, that means you can double your production, right? You double your capacity. And so after every phone call, I know when I was back in a production role, you almost download after every call and go, okay, man, what did I do there? What would I say that hit? What did I say that didn't? What question would I have asked? Did I pre-close? Did I not pre-close? So on and so forth. So, back to pre-closing and questions that you ask, because you talk about occupation, rhythm of talking, questions, things they care about. How do you identify that pain point? And what questions do you consistently ask Matt or Nick, whatever, in your process that kind of show you the hand of where the customer would like to go, right? And you meet them there. Is that a fair question?
Yeah. I'll go first, but I think a good question is, sourcing where the referral source, or sourcing who it came from, right? Did it come from a mortgage lender? A lot of times we know that, there are certain lenders that send us a referral and they don't send it to anybody else. And then we have other referral sources that they might send it to a couple other people. So being able to identify those sorts of situations is certainly helpful. But getting the client on the phone and digging a little bit into their certain situation, I think a good question is like, are you getting any other quotes? Like, how much time have you spent on this? Like, if I can get this done for you today, is this something you want to get off your plate like right now? Are you going to be getting quotes and waiting? Like, what is it that, what can I do to help, get this off of your plate right now? And trying to figure out is, maybe they want to get a bunch of different quotes. Maybe they want the least expensive policy they can get. If that's the case, I need to find that out. And I also want to know why, I think it's important to figure out why they want the least expensive policy. Some of these D's and C type personalities that are buying maybe a big home, they're only putting a mortgage on it because it's the smart thing for them to do. They don't want all the bells and whistles. They really don't care about insurance, because if something happens, if they've got a $50,000 loss, they're probably just going to pay for that stuff out of pocket, depending on, how much money they've got. Well, it's important to know that, because some people might think this is a beautiful home. It's 9,000 square feet. They just bought it for $9 million. I need to add all the bells and whistles on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually quite the opposite in most cases. So figuring that out, I think is important, but just trying to get to the point, what can I do right now to earn your business? However way, whatever questions you have to ask in that manner. I think that's typically a good starting point.
Incredible. Incredible. Nick, is there any consistent questions that you find yourself asking early on in that discovery process that you kind of go to give you the lay of land?
Yeah, it's Florida, this is kind of a melting pot, right? There are people moving from all over different states to come here. So whenever we get a call, to Matt's point too, you want to identify who the referral source is and always edify them, make sure that they know that hey, they're in the best hands that they're in, whether it be realtor or mortgage lender.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of keep that relationship going. And then yeah, like even if a call comes in and it's a different area code and you don't know, 821, what is that? Where are you from? No, I'm from, Fresno. I don't think that's Fresno's area code, but and then okay, cool, nice. I actually just watched listen to a podcast about Derek Carr. I think he went to Fresno. Oh yeah, Derek. So it's like just
Right.
identifying who you are and trying to say like, hey, I'm not a stranger. I'm on your side. I'm here to help. You need insurance. We have the best products. You don't want to work with a complete stranger. Let's try to find some common ground. You kind of want to be everyone's friend at some point, right? And there are people out there that aren't really a good fit for us, and Matt will be the first one to tell you too, because he's the one who taught me that hey, if you're spinning your wheels on something and they're not they're not budging and they're not a good fit for us, and sometimes people aren't a good fit for us, call your a different agent who's just willing to be computerized and do something, but yeah, I think Matt made some really good points there, and yeah.
Yeah, you talk about building rapport quick, right? There's being an awareness of looking at the area code. That's another great tip. Look at the
Yep.
area code of where the number comes from. Look at their email address, right? If somebody's email address says Florida
Exactly.
football, go not, whatever it is, you'd be like, hey, are you from Gainesville? Are you a Gator? Yeah. Oh my God, I grew up a Gator fan, right? That does not take 5 minutes, right? And you also don't have to stay on the Gators. You also don't have to talk about their
Yeah.
next 2 recruiting classes and how excited you are about their NIE. You don't have to do that. You can hit that quickly, come to their side of the desk, present as friendly, and then come back to your advisor role of understanding, right? There's this toggle that can happen to where we can be friendly. We don't have to be best friends. You obviously called for me for a reason. I'm a sales professional. You understand that, right? So I think you guys both hit on that. One thing I want to share, and this is just a quick story for me, is asking questions. Don't assume, right? Like find ways to creatively ask somebody what they're looking for. How do they use their insurance? What has their insurance been in the past? I'll never forget walking to the car lot, and I had one dealership that assumed I wanted all the bells and whistles, that I cared about all the bells and whistles, and then I went to and I was super frustrated when I left. I spent like 45 minutes there. I'm imagining this is the parallel of the rookie agent that keeps me on the phone for 45 minutes and an hour and all this stuff. And then I go to the other dealership, and early on, first thing you walk, how do you use your vehicle? Well, I just to and from. I don't care about what I drive. Just want it to be reliable, trust it. Oh, so you use it as a tool? Is that fair to say? Point A to point B? Yeah, I use it as a tool. Point A to point B. Perfect, man. Let me walk you over here. I think you'd like the Traverse rather than the Acadia because you don't need all the bells and whistles. Oh my God, this guy understands me. And he just did that in 5 seconds, right? So as sales professionals, we can do that. And guess what? That guy got the sale and it took him like 15 minutes. Like every prospect is not the same. And that's what I get from this conversation. It's how quickly you can identify it and build rapport, ask really good questions to understand they're looking for, and then acknowledge your capacity and don't spend a bunch of time on stuff that you don't need to. So, real quick, I want to pivot and shift a little bit of gears to speed to lead. We talk about referral partners and we talk about, that relationship, as we know in our ecosystem, so important. I know we're talking more sales today, but how important is speed to lead or speed to call? Matt, you've had a lot of experiences to where phone rings, you pick it up quick, all of a sudden it's a $20,000 account, right? Or whatever it is. And so how do you approach that? And what have you learned about speed to lead, speed to phone, and just the urgency to meet a prospect's time they want to talk with making availability to talk?
Yeah. No, there was a guy that in my last office, his name was Taylor Young, and he used to talk about this a lot. I didn't realize how important it was until I got down to St. Pete and started, bringing in referrals to Nick and I, and man, it is everything. It's something that we are constantly talking about. It's something that we just will not let up. As soon as that quote comes in, our goal is to get that quoted and sent back within that same hour. Like what we've found out is there are a lot of people that spend time out marketing, and you have to do that. But if you miss the simple fact of when that quote comes in, you don't get it back for 3 or 4 hours, they can find the next person that stops by their office that says, we're going to get it back to you within an hour. You might have spent 10 hours at this office over the course of the last 4 or 5 months, and it could be gone at that point. And I don't know what it is exactly, other than the fact that these lenders that send referrals, these realtors, they want information quickly. And it's, for us, for a lot of agents, they think, well, why do they don't need it that fast, because they're not closing for 45 days. But it's amazing. They want it ASAP, because they want to know, can my buyer afford this? Is this going to throw a wrench in the deal? Because maybe there's flood insurance involved. They didn't calculate the rates properly. It's way more expensive than anybody would have thought. So getting those rates, sent back to the client within an hour, it keeps our machine working. Because what happens is you stop by an office, you meet Jim, and Jim sends over a referral, and you get it back to him in 20 minutes. And he goes, oh my gosh. Jim sends another one over, right? They're testing you. You send another one back in 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden what we've seen is Jim tells the entire office, guys, we found a new agency. Like these guys get these quotes sent out. And so then they tell their entire team. All of a sudden, the whole team starts sending over deals. The same thing is for like really complicated quotes, like really complicated risks. The same sort of thing happens. If you can get a complicated policy done, I call it sticky business, right? No other agents want to work on it, but if you can get one done in a timely manner, that's really challenging. All of a sudden, everybody starts saying these guys can get anything done, which you have to walk. That's a fine line with what you can and cannot do. But just speed to lead, as Nick would tell you too. I mean, we think that is, if you can be fast and be competitive, you're going to do really, really well in this business, because usually agents are one or the other. They're either fast and not competitive, or they're competitive but not fast. So when you combine those two, that's a powerful thing, and referral partners love that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What a masterclass. Nick, what about you, man? Specific to like when that phone rings, you seem like somebody like, man, I just want to get him on the phone. Like, I'm going to send this email real quick, but just let me talk to the person and let me get him on the phone. How do you handle the phone and the urgency there, and how quickly you call a lead if you have the phone number, how you answer the phone, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, the new referral partners that don't know our process yet and haven't really fell in love with it yet, and to trust us, they come first no matter what. So if it's a new referral partner, we're dropping what we're doing, we're getting that quote over ASAP, the best of our ability at least. And then yeah, there's some few tricks that I've been doing this year actually that have been working a little bit, and it's just like kind of silly things like calling if I'm doing need approval or I need to call an insurance company. I'll actually just use my cell phone to keep the line open for in case somebody wants to call in, or in case I see something where I need to come out. A lot of times you're on hold for a long time, so there's times that I'm on hold on my cell phone, but I'll still hop on there and make a call on communicator for our work phone and you can always call the
That's
company back.
genius.
Yeah, that's good.
You can always call the companies back, right? So they're always going to be there till 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
But
And then they're not.
yeah, but yeah, I just think I just got blurry there for a second.
I think that was so good. They blurred your camera, man. I have never heard of that. So because you can just call the carrier, you're going to be on hold, keep that on your cell phone, and then boom, let me call while I'm doing that, or answer the phone while I'm doing that, because time is money, and
Exactly.
I could probably make 2 calls right during that hold time.
Exactly. Like they'll say, see, I switched up my camera a little bit.
There he is.
They'll see like right when it says new business, St. Pete new business incoming, that phone call is ended, and I'm trying to pick up ASAP. Or even
Yep.
if it's, especially because like you can tell right when you send out a quote, and you know the name, so you can see the name. If you send it out and they're calling right
Yes.
away, oh, they want to talk now.
Mm.
They want to get this thing going. And right there, to like Matt's point before, you already know their personality type. It's let's get this done, let's get this out of the way, and move forward from there. So I think that's just a little nugget that I've been doing that's been working for me. So this year, so
Really good, man. We were talking about this about relationship management too. Like, there's something about structuring your day, time blocking, utilizing technology and calendar invites. But man, when somebody wants to talk and move forward, you talk to them and move forward. You
yeah,
find a way to talk to them and move forward. Because if you miss that window and they call the other agency and they answer, they're just going to go with the other agents. Because as humans,
100%.
we want to do the path of least resistance. So, that's just the way it is. And go back to something that Matt said is just, I think people just want to feel important. I think at the end of this, whether it's answering the phone quick, whether it's responding to a referral partner, people at the thing that is remarkable about it, because you're making them feel like they are a priority and they're going, dang, that person's good, man. They made me feel important. I just feel good. So that I think is at the core of all this. And so then on the phone, and then when you answer, do you, Matt, go back to your experience here a little bit, as far as what are things that you leverage now? Do you find that it takes you less time to do these complicated deals that you're talking about? Like I wanted to come back to the balance and the dichotomy of saying, like, I don't want to be the person that just does all the complicated deals. But Nick mentioned earlier on the call, like, hey, if it's a new referral partner, like, and they send me a complicated deal, like could be how I win I win the deal. And then you also, because your experience may say other agents perceive this as complicated, and yeah, maybe it has to go E&S, but this is going to take me 10 minutes. This is actually easier because I know that I know the market. It's the only market, and I know how to do this. So do you kind of play with that balance? What would you advise a producer on that? Is like, do a lot of the times they perceive a complicated deal means it's more time, when really it just means that you have to kind of know more and experience more and lean on brokers?
I think it's a little bit of both. Knowing the market certainly is going to shorten the amount of time that you have to work on things, but the market also changes so much. It has been changing almost weekly or monthly in the last 3 years. So it can be hard to keep up with that stuff, but the better you keep up with it, the quicker you're going to be at this stuff. I think the biggest thing is kind of what Nick said earlier, is if you are going to spend your time on something really complicated, knowing that there's a lot to get versus, okay, am I going to spend,
Mm-hmm.
4 hours on this thing and it's a $1,200 policy and that's it, and that's all we're going to be able to do. Because make no mistake, like just like most businesses, we're a for-profit company, so like we have to be able to make money, otherwise this business isn't going to work. So the most important thing is figuring out, okay, if I spend this much time on it, how much am I going to be able to help this person? And if I am able to help this person, are they going to go with us, or am I just wasting my time?
Yep.
So I think understanding that philosophy through and through is really going to help the newer agent. We're talking about June's numbers. All of my production basically was from complicated deals, big, they were big deals, but I knew enough about the marketplace. I knew enough about the products where I could explain this to somebody on the phone. And by the way, most of them are type D personalities, right?
Ready to go.
Hard to get them on the phone, but if you get them on the phone, you spend a couple minutes with them and say, this is the only option. This is what it's going to be. Here's the price. If you want this, let's get it done.
Yep.
And
Here's
they
my
just,
credit
at
card.
the end of the day, they're like, other agents might not have said that. They're like, well, let me do some digging. Let me get back. They can't get them on the phone again. So by the time I have them on the phone, I can assess the situation, build a little risk profile, understand their risk tolerance, and say, here's what we've got. I can do this. One of them was a couple older properties that were going to have extremely limited coverage. Well, the guy's a mega millionaire. He's like, I only need it because they're collateralizing my other properties so I can buy the new house. So I don't care. I haven't had insurance on them for years.
I'm a
Never
whale.
had them insurance. Yeah, I've never had insurance on them. So I'm not going to try to find a policy that's got full coverage for all this stuff. I just knew, okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, then you don't care about any of this coverage. You just need something in place. I can get you that taken care of. Boom, boom, boom. And within maybe 20 minutes, we had all 3 policies done, and he was good to go. So, risk tolerance is a big one when you're dealing with complicated issues, because if somebody's risk tolerance is high, a complicated issue is usually a lot easier to get done.
Well, you just tied together almost this entire conversation. Nick, do you want to expand on that?
No, I was just saying, no, Matt's right. There's just more options if you're less risk tolerant, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, but the way you went through that, Matt, right? There's this awareness of this is where sales becomes an art. This is where you can have salespeople that, and professionals that make $50K a year in a position, and in the same position somebody makes $500,000, because they take those little subtleties in that art and they combine it to understand somebody's personality, understand their risk tolerance, understand their time and capacity and how to get an outcome quicker, understand how to position a question in a certain way. And I think that's the evolution that always fascinates me about sales, is just like, that's what they mean when there's no cap, because you always can get a little bit better at that. And then once you start understanding the whole picture that if you guys have reviewed, then it gets powerful and you start closing, $20,000-$30,000 deals in 5-10 minutes, right? Because you're pre-closing, right? I can get a yes. The one thing I think about, we used to do this all the time, and some people may still do, yeah, we'll take a look at it. What do you need to take a look at? Right? Like, what you're looking at is the person that is on the phone. The risk is the risk. And conceptually, we can get there pretty quickly. Look, it's going to be challenging. I don't know the number, but it's going to be expensive. There's probably going to be minimal coverage. It's going to be the only option. Here's what I'd require for it. Let me ask you, why you need this, whatever it is, right? In that conversation, they go, look, I really don't need the coverage or collateral, whatever. They give you the reason. Okay, is there any reason you wouldn't work with me if I can get this done? Because most agents aren't going to touch this, and I'm willing to do this because I know X, Y, and Z down the street, and he's a big referral partner of ours. Oh yeah, man, I'm just trying to get this done, man. I got a meeting in an hour, and this is the last thing I have to do before closing. Boom, done. Okay, we don't need to go back to Quote Rush and quote it and send the rate comparison list and include the video and do the whole thing in that scenario when you already have somebody's attention. So this fires me up. I'm going to do this. If you guys want to share anything to cap off this conversation in the theme of time is money, I said it'd be a half hour, and we're just a little over that half hour, and it's really good. So I just wanted to see if there's anything you want to share before we tie this off.
No, I just to add on to what Matt was saying too, when you get the big deals like that, and a lot of it comes with experience. So you know the companies that are going to be acceptable, and when you get that person on the phone finally, who's a doctor, who's an attorney, or somebody that is a little bit of the higher value that doesn't have much time. So just what has always worked for me is just give them the options, give them the rundown right away. Say, okay, cool. Look, this is what I know. I know that we have option 1, option 2, and option 3. I'm going to recommend option 1. If that doesn't work, we're going to go option 2. And I'm going to give you a reason why it all doesn't work. And if we have to go with option 3, there will be a reason, but I'm just going to let you know everything. So our next phone call, we're not going to sit on the phone for 15 minutes and talk about why or anything like that. And it's just easier to go about it like that, where they put the trust in you and they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. And he will find an option and we can get the deal done. So that's what I found valuable, and I've a good response from. So
yep,
I think that worked well for me.
Incredible, because all I hear is that, hey, the next time we talk, this is going to be off your plate.
Yeah,
If we need to talk again, which we may not, right? I'm going to handle this for you, so you can go do whatever is taking up your mental load otherwise in this insurance, because I know you don't want to deal with it. So that's a good thought, Nick. What about you, Matt?
I would just say, it's going to be harder for newer agents to do this, but with enough practice and repetition, one of the biggest things that so many still experienced agents don't do is ballpark anything, right? There's so many times where we'll get a phone call, we'll get an email, and there's 4 or 5 different properties listed, and they're like, can you run this through? And, the average agent's going to go, oh my gosh, like, oh, I hate these emails, and they're going to quote out each one potentially. But getting really good at just ballparking, I think is a skill set and something that people appreciate, because if you can ballpark something and be pretty close, you don't have to say, oh, it's going to be $1,850. It's going to be between 15 and 2,500 bucks, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing the market enough to where you can ballpark some of those things, especially on some of the more complicated stuff like we were just talking about. Hey, this is going to be tough, but my guess is it's probably going to be north of $10,000. We're going to need X, Y, and Z. If that's something that we can do for you, I know there's no other option out there. Let me work on that for you. I'll send you the finalized proposal just to make sure I'm within that number, and then we can just give me a thumbs up. We'll get it done. So my advice to younger agents or just more seasoned agents that aren't doing that, get better at ballparking, because you'll save yourself a lot of time, and you'll actually earn yourself more referrals, because people will call you more often, just say, can you give me a quick ballpark on this?
Yep.
So I think that's helpful.
And I also think you can leverage the experienced agent in your office or in your team, right? So if you're not
100%.
great at ballparking, that's where team can come in, and you can leverage that. But I agree, you'll save yourself so much time. And then you'll find that people don't really care about exact until they need to care about the exact. Referral sources included. If I can tell somebody it's going to be between $1,200 and $1,800, they can go, okay, I can make 1,500 work, but I can't make 1,800 work. Okay, send it over, then we'll see if we can get it under the 1,500, whatever it is, right? You can get it there when you need to. Last thing, I can't let you go. This is too good. Give me 30 to 60 more seconds. Existing client referrals. Do you ask, when you build rapport with a client, when it's an ideal client, you do the home and auto, how do you approach getting existing client referrals? Because I know a large amount of your business comes from word of mouth, existing clients, and so on. Do you have a question you ask? Do you intentionally seek it out? Do you look for other referral partners within the sale? Just walk me into, when you're closing out that call, how you kind of position yourself to get more.
Nick, why don't you take that one?
Yeah. It's all about asking the questions, right? So if it was referred over by a lender and you ask them, okay, who is a realtor? Maybe it's a realtor you've never worked with before. After the deal is done, you follow up with an email to the realtor saying, glad we can get this done. It's been a great process, super easy on our end. Let me know if you need any help in the future. Keep it quick, but write it down, jot it down, and always follow up with that person a week later, a month later, see if there's any other deals that they have working on. Vice versa too for realtors. If they're okay, what lender are you working with? Okay, no problem. Do the same thing with them. And existing clients, always ask, hey, do you have any, I hope you like the process here. If there's any other friends or anybody else that you know would want to shop insurance, feel free to give my email out. That we love referrals. Sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't know that you wanted us to do that. It's like, no, we want you to do that. So it's asking those questions and taking the time out to time again, talking about it again. This would be worth it though. That extra 5 minutes could lead to 5-6 more deals.
Yeah. And I think too, like in our business, we work with a lot with referral partners like lenders and realtors. Well, lenders and realtors, they go back and forth, deals upon deals upon deals. They're always working together. So when you can become part of that, I use it. Did we lose Nick?
I think we did. You closed.
But when we're part of that power team, when we're working with those realtors or working with the lenders, if we get something from one of the lenders and we find out who the realtor is, like what Nick said, we reach out to them. Associating yourself with that power team to the client is important, because now you're not just you're not somebody doing a job just for insurance. You're actually part of this much bigger group, and they had a great experience with their realtor. They're super excited about their home. They had a great experience with their lender, and this is the insurance person that's helping out. And it's a big team. And so when you can associate yourself with that sort of power team, I think it's easier for people to remember you, because they're like, oh man, they did everything. They had the title agency, the insurance person, the mortgage person, the realtor. That's who I would refer. So I think that's important to to
Yeah.
just make sure that you're associating yourself with those partners. Even when I call somebody, if I'm calling a new homeowner, a lot of times I don't say I'm Matt with Urban Young Insurance right off the bat, right? I'll tell them that after the fact, but I'll say, hey,
Yes.
this is Matt. I'm working alongside, Chris Urban with the mortgage firm. How are you? And so then it's those associations, right? They think, oh, Matt, Chris Urban, the mortgage firm. I get it. And then it's like, I'm actually with Urban Young Insurance, but we work together all the time. I know you're a realtor, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's important too.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's such a great nugget, because why would they care if you're with Urban Young, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, hey, I'm actually working with Chris Urban with the mortgage firm. How's your experience been going? I help alongside him to just close his deals on time and get this very seamless for you. I know you probably want this off your plate. They don't even need to know you do insurance right away. They just need to make the association to where they can lower their guard, and they can now continue forward with the process. So if you're
Yeah.
listening, please play with that language and see how you're received. Because when I get phone calls, the earlier that somebody can make a connection with a third party that I already know, like, and trust, then my guard's going to lower. Right. And then if they're selling extended, vehicle warranties, okay, well, then maybe my guard goes back up. But that is what it is. So, well, boys, I appreciate you both making the time. We're going to do this again. Keep breaking records and progressing in your market and as producers, but more, I know how valuable this is going to be for not only the new producer or the seasoned producer, but also the veteran, and for people like us that can gain so many little tactical, like the stuff on, keeping them on hold, and so much of that, and Nick, so much of what I gain from it is like, hey man, be intentional about your day. Every minute and second you spend, you're either going to be able to put yourself to earn more or not. Right. So be intentional about your day. And then Matt, you're just so good with the art of understanding different personality types, and condensing conversations and getting outcomes. So thanks, boys. We will see you soon, and we're better for it.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you. See you guys.